How's it going? So, Captain Marvel 2, or The Marvels, is about to come out in a few weeks, and it's looking pretty bad. It might be a massive, massive flop. Actually, in my opinion, I think it will be a massive, massive flop. But what is a flop? Let's define what a flop is. Well, in my personal opinion, a flop is something where if they have to break even at, say, whatever, however many millions it is, say 500 million, then if it doesn't hit that number, it's a flop. Now, a complete disaster or a bomb would be like way under the 500 million. You're making like 300 million or something like that. It's like, oh God, you lost $200 million. That's a massive bomb. I don't think it's going to be a massive bomb. I think it's going to be a flop. I think it's going to lose money. And to give you some context of why I think that, the opening weekend, they originally first projected about $50 million. Now you might be thinking, oh, $50 million for an opening weekend, that's pretty good, right? Well, the last one, Captain Marvel #1, it opened to a little over $150 million opening weekend, and then went on to make a little over $1 billion. So you're like, okay, so it opens up a third. So, maybe it makes like 700 million, 800 million. No. It's projected to make 50 million. To give you an example, that will be the lowest opening for any MCU movie, any of them. The current lowest is Hulk from 2000, the Edward Norton Hulk from like 2008, I believe, and it opened for like $54 million. That is currently the lowest. And the next one will be just Ant-Man #1. I think that was like 58 million or something like that. But it's projected at like 50 million on the low end. So as you can see, early projections, 72% worse than Ant-Man #3 Quantumanium. It's projected at somewhere between 50 and 75 million. Now, newer projections have come in, as this is like a week old, and newer projections have come in from Deadline, and they're saying that it should be a little higher. It should be heading for 75 to 80 million, which is 50% of what the first one made. Now, you might be thinking, 50%? That's not bad, right? Well, here's the difference. Captain Marvel #1 cost about $150 million to make. Captain Marvel #2, or The Marvels, is upwards between $250 to $270 million. That's literally as much as like an Avengers movie. I think Endgame was more, but almost $300 million. That is a huge thing you have to overcome, $300 million. And to give you an example, $300 million doesn't mean it has to make $300 million in the box office. I have had this conversation so many times with people online. They just don't understand how it works. So let me break it down how it works. If your budget is $300 million, any movie pretty much, if whatever your budget is, you have to 2.5 to sometimes even 3x that to get your break-even point. So if your movie is $100 million production, you have to, in order to break even, you have to make at least $250 million in the box office to maybe $300 million. Why? It's because the production budget might be $100 million, but then you also have advertising, which is almost as much as the production budget, and then the theater takes a cut. So you add all those together, and usually the math is about 2.5 times. As you can see right here, typically averages 2.5 production budget. Some people say 3 times, but usually it really depends movie by movie, but 2.5 is a good rule of thumb. And with the Marvels costing upwards of $250 million, that is quite a lot that they have to overcome. To give you an example, Ant-Man and the Wasp #3, which did not do very well, it ended up bringing in opening weekend $100 million, and then it ended up only getting $476 million in total. And it had a production budget of about $200 million. So as you can see there, Ant-Man 3, which did $100 million opening weekend, which Marvel's is not going to even touch that, I don't think. It went on to pretty much lose money because it probably is break-even point of a $200 million production budget was probably around $500 million. It made about 476 or whatever it was. So it's slightly under that, lost a little bit of money. But, sometimes maybe they can make it up in other places, like, Marvel movies lend itself to like toys and stuff. It's not like it's some random, like a Forrest Gump movie and, there it is making Forrest Gump toys, making money back that way. So maybe they could probably make a little more that way. Plus they have other things, other avenues, their Disney Plus and stuff. So losing 25 million on a movie, you look at it overall, maybe you can make some of that back on merchandising, things like that. But nonetheless, the Marvels, I don't even think if it has a production budget of $250 million, you're looking at what, like a little over 600 million that you're going to need to make, like 625, I think, if I'm doing my math right. Like, so 625 million just to break even. Now, you might be thinking the first one made a little over $1 billion. The second one's not going to make it. The reason why the first one made over $1 billion, a lot of people think it was a great movie. It was not. It was a terrible movie. Not terrible, but just compared to, I hold MCU movies higher standard because from that point, they were all great. And then you had Captain Marvel. I remember watching it, and I texted my friend afterwards. I was like, oh, what'd you think of it? He's like, oh, I loved it. It's so great. And I was like, not really. And he's like, well, why? And I'm like, compared to every other Marvel movie that's come out before that, what do you think? He's like, oh, it's actually really far down the list. I'm like, there you go. The reason why people were so excited is it came out right before Endgame. It was the only thing like, oh, we're going to get some super secret stuff. And the MCU has been doing this gangbusters, every movie hit after hit after hit after hit. So it's like, oh, one kind of okay dud, whatever, it's fine. And so that's why it made a bunch of money. It did not make a bunch of money because people were like, oh, Captain Marvel's such a great character, or Brie Larson, such a great actress in there. No. The only time I saw Brie Larson before Captain Marvel was a movie called The Room. I think she was nominated for an Oscar. I thought that movie was great, and I thought she was great in it. But you can, as a great actor or actress, you can have some duds. Maybe the director tells you to go in a different way than you want to do. Maybe you're taking some liberties. Maybe in The Room, if she had no liberties and it was all the director's point of where to go. I don't know. She's also just not like, in The Room, you don't really have to be that likable in the movie she was in. But in a Marvel movie, you kind of have to be likable, and she was not very likable at all. And also, I'm so pissed that she took Hulk's thunder away when she ended up attacking Thanos at the end. I'm like, oh, come to save the day. Like, oh, I don't even care about this character, so I was not excited to see her. Some people, here's what's going to happen. People, for years, I've been saying Captain Marvel's not a great character, at least this version of her in the MCU. Brie Larson is not liked by very many people, and now it's going to come to fruition. Now people are going to see, because she was hiding behind the shield of the MCU doing so well. That's why her movie did well. Now you're going to see that this movie will come out and it will bomb. It will bomb. It will be a flop, whatever you want to call it. It will not make its money back. And the MCU, Disney, will have to go back to the drawing board to figure things out. And that's why the state of the MCU is terrible, because they keep on making terrible decision after terrible decision. And then, oh, I love it. I love it when they say, like, the fans come out and they start complaining about things, and they're like, toxic fan base. No. The fans are the canary in the coal mine. That's what the fans are. They're the ones sounding the alarms, going, look what you're doing over here. This is bad. They did the same thing with Star Wars. All the fans were like, oh, this is not good. We don't like the new Disney Star Wars. And they're like, oh, toxic fan base. And like, no, now look at the state. See, if you would have listened to the fans way back then, Star Wars wouldn't be where it is right now, which is in pretty much a dumpster fire. Ahsoka was one of the lowest opening of all new Star Wars shows. And it had a 40% drop in, I think it was 7 episodes, from its first episode to the 7th. It ended up only getting its final episode like 800,000 people to view its final episode. Why? Because people don't care. They've been sounding the alarm, so fans are slowly leaving. I left. I haven't watched anything. Why? Because I watched Book of Boba Fett, and I was like, Jesus. It's bad. The only good episode was the one with the Mandalorian. Wait to just throw that. That's terrible. I'm not going to watch the Ben Kenobi one. I do not. I'm happy with the prequels, with Ian McGregor and that. I don't need to burn my eyeballs. And I just don't have time. I liked The Mandalorian. I did. But I watched season 3. I'm like, what is this? It's not even about The Mandalorian anymore. Ugh. So I gave up on there. And some people would say I'm not a fan. I'm like, well, I'm a fan of the trilogies, the original trilogy. You know, I love the original trilogy. I stopped watching the new Disney Star Wars. I watched number 1, Force Awakens. I'm like, okay, there's a lot bad that I don't like about it, but let's give it another go. And it was so turned off that I was like, I'm just going to watch it at home. So I didn't watch it in theaters. Watched it at home. And then, what was it, the second one? Something of the Jedi. I don't know. Whatever it was, where Luke dies, just dies. I'm like, this is the worst movie I've ever seen. This is like a spit in the face to everything Star Wars. And I refuse to watch the third one, whatever it's Rise of Skywalker. Didn't even watch it. I have no desire to. There's no point. Why would I want to watch something and just get mad? Maybe you guys would like it, and then I can rant some more. But anyways, that's Disney Star Wars. Back to the MCU. The MCU is in shambles because people have been sounding the alarm. People like me, other people online, tons of people, like the Critical Drinker. That's someone I watch. He's been harping on this for a long time, and he's not alone in this. There's lots of people. These are fans. They're saying, look what you're doing. These are bad movies, bad characters, bad this, and they keep on shoving it forward. Like, if we just push it enough, people will like it. And like, we don't like it. Stop. And they ruined pretty much the MCU. And this is what happens. This toxic fan base that all they do is like, oh, they're toxic, and they just call us names. No, we're fans. We care about the characters. We, of all people, care about the characters more than the people writing the shows, directing the shows, all that stuff. We are the fans. Fans care more than everyone else, because everyone else, even if you like the character, you're not really a true fan. You're putting your own ideas and your own things into this. You're putting your own stuff first, what you want to make, what you want to do. And sometimes that aligns with the fans. Other times it does not at all. And so therefore, the state of the MCU is in shambles. This Marvel's movie, I hope, is another wake-up call, unlike all the other stuff that they've been releasing are wake-up calls. And so hopefully this is a wake-up call. I'm like, maybe this character isn't very good, or maybe we should stop writing characters like this and actually write characters that people like and enjoy. And someone was saying like, oh, she's stoic. If this was a male character, no one would even care. And I'm like, well, I don't know if that's true or not. I would have to see. But at the same time, men and women are different. So certain characteristics work for men and certain characteristics work for women. That's just how it goes. So when you write a man like a woman or a woman like a man, maybe it doesn't do well with the audience. I don't know. I'm just saying that could be a possibility. So I don't know. The MCU is this. I don't know what they're going to do, honestly. I don't know how they're going to turn the ship around. And if they do, it's going to be years and years, because you've burned people so many times. They don't want to go see your movies anymore. They don't care. That's why it keeps dropping more and more and more and more, faster and faster. Yeah, you have the Guardians. Why? Because they have a fan base, and they're like, okay, let's see, Guardians 1, great. Guardians 2, great. Yeah, I'm going to sell Guardians 3, great, right? But I feel like the Guardians are like separate from the MCU. They're like part of the MCU, but different. It's kind of like the Mandalorian and Star Wars. It's like it's part of Star Wars, but not really. Like, that's how I feel about the Guardians. And I feel like people like James Gunn and Chris Pratt, and they like all the characters. I don't think people like Brie Larson or Captain Marvel. So she's not a Star-Lord. She's not a Chris Pratt. I don't even know who the director is. Who the other characters are, I have no idea. Nick Fury, obviously no one really cares that much about Nick Fury. I like Samuel L. Jackson, but let's face it, he had a show, barely anybody watched it. Was it Secret Invasion? Yeah, no one cared. It was a bomb, abysmal. And they're canceling shows. Ironheart, cancel it. Agatha Harkness, they keep on going back, changing things. Daredevil, hopefully they get off the ground. Daredevil, you know what they did? They filmed pretty much half the show. They're like, we're going to come out with 16 episodes, or whatever it was. Maybe it was 20. And they filmed half of it, and then they came in and they're like, it's garbage. Get rid of it all. So maybe they're turning the ship around. Maybe this movie, went for 1 million reshoots, got rescheduled 1 million times for release. So maybe finally they're like, okay, we're just going to release it because whatever. Maybe they should do what DC did with Batgirl and just can the whole thing, right? Maybe they're already into it for so much money. Maybe they're like, we just need the money back. But DC was like, no, this is going to hurt our brand. And that's what they don't understand. The reason why the Endgame made like trillions of dollars is because every single movie was good and elevated the next movie and the next movie. And then you had to watch this movie and then that one. Oh, I got to watch it because everyone was good. Every single movie was pretty much good. And even if it wasn't that good, it was like, okay. And it was like, okay, moving on to the next, moving on to the next. And this one, it's like dud after dud after dud after dud after dud. And it's just like, oh my gosh, and they're not like complete duds, but they're just not the quality of MCU before. They did test screenings on this movie before they were going to release it. It had a 32% likability. That means 32% of the people they tested on this said they liked it. That's pretty bad. That's really bad, actually. So they went back and they workshopped it again and changed some things, edited it again, reshot some scenes, things like that. Came back, showed it again, and got a 28%. So even worse after all the work they put into it. So I don't know who they're hiring over there, but they need to fire every single person. And it sucks that they're going to be without a job, but you're just going to make a movie that's going to lose money. That's all you're going to do. And that's fine if that's what your business is. If Disney's in the business of, I don't really care, we're going to push the product that we want to push. And if it loses money, it loses money. That is fine. Whatever. You're Disney. You can do whatever you want. But just letting you know that the fans are not going to stick around. And then you're going to get less and less of them. And this will be a testament of it. You're going to spend almost $300 million. Almost $300 million. And I guarantee you, this movie is probably not going to do very good overseas, where it has even a weaker fan base. And then here at home, it's not going to do very well. It just isn't. Let's see, if it needs like $650 million or something like that just to break even, probably my guess is, this other article said it's probably going to open, like now it's a little closer to 75, 80 million, something like that. I could probably see that. There's still a lot of fans out there. There still is. Like diehard fans of the MCU that are watch anything. I have friends that are like literally watch anything. And there's probably still people that, like Captain Marvel. It's fine if you like Captain Marvel. Not a big deal. Could be your favorite character. Brie Larson could be your favorite actress. That could be your favorite movie of all time. That's fine. This is my opinion. And yeah, so I could see it opening for 75 million, because that's generally what the other like Ant-Man 3 opened for like 100 million. So even though this is trending bad, I could see that happening. 75 million. And then I'm talking domestic, of course. But I just don't see any way that it can make over $650 million. I just don't see it. I really don't. I honestly think this will hover around the 400 to 500 mark. I would probably be like probably anywhere from 450 to 550 is where it's going to end worldwide, meaning it'll be shy of its goal by like 100 to 150 million. That will be its loss. And I can see that. And a lot of people are like, oh gosh, it made so much money. Like blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, not when everything costs. Like, it's all about profitability. Who cares if it made $500 million? If it costs you $1 trillion to make, well, you're screwed. So that's it. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you're going to watch it. I mean, I really don't want to watch it. I might just literally watch it just to make content. But I really don't. I really don't want to watch it. I haven't really seen much of the Disney Plus stuff, or I think I've seen every MCU movie. Yeah, the last one was Guardians. I actually really liked that one. I thought Guardians was great. Had a lot of heart. James Gunn is a great director. Why they fired him just to rehire him is stupid. See, that's the stupid decisions that make me mad. It's decisions like that where it's like, oh, a few people on Twitter are mad. Let's fire him for old joke. And then, oh, he went to DC. Oh my gosh, we want him back. And so then you get him back. And then he's like, well, I can't come out of Guardians 3 now because I'm contracted to do all these other things with DC. And it's just like, ugh. I think it was Suicide Squad 2. And, which I liked. I didn't love Peacemaker. Fantastic. It was a fantastic show. I love Peacemaker. But, yeah, it's just Disney. It's just like so dumb. You're just like doing things for the now, and then it's not going to help you. It's just ruining your brand and all that. So have a good